Are you checking? Okay, we're yeah, I'm admitting some people in while you're doing that. Okay, this is quite exciting. We're here. Did you click on that again? Admit. We're in New York City. Emily Harris, our producer, and myself. This is the Tuning Fork episode 38, and we're really excited to have Lorenzo and Julia and Lorenzo from STALKER with us, and also our board member, Margaret Widmer, who's in Austria. Yeah, Margaret, in Austria?
Yes, I'm in Austria.
And Vera in Paris. We have also Mirice and Pierre, who are going to present a film for about 2 minutes. We're going to observe and watch the video, and we have subtitles for about 2.5 minutes. And then in the background, we'll be able to speak and hear some of the narration and a description about this event. Now, I just want to mention that Vera and Margaret and Jean Pendon in Canada. Jean, are you in Montreal?
Montreal, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I see, I believe, down there. Oh, there's. Okay, so we have about 3 or 4 people who actually work very intensely with community and cultural activism. So it's very interesting to Tony Stern down there. So as this is sort of a social practice, meeting and seminar, we're very honored and thrilled to be hosting on the Tuning Fork, STALKER, Julia Fiocca, and Lorenzo Romito. Marice and Pierre is in NPR, the NPR facilities in Washington, D.C. For those of us who are not familiar with what NPR is, it's our privilege to have NPR in America, because they are pretty much the voice of reason and unmitigated reality, as far as, we all can account for what reality is, but is sort of without bias and other agendas than community awareness, synergy, and activism from the perspective of information and knowledge about what's really going on around the world. So thanks, Pierre and Mirice. Let's start your film. We're going to have a screen share now, and we'll have in the background Mirice and Pierre telling us a little bit about this, and we'll chat with STALKER at the same time. After about 2.5 minutes, here we go. And we're live on YouTube and FaceTime now. There's no audio.
Pierre, no audio.
I think maybe he has to unmute himself.
Maybe Pierre has to unmute himself, says our producer.
Did you hear that?
No. Emily Harris, who produces our shows, does quite a lot of preparation for this. And there we go. Okay, we're going to go back to our film. Thanks, Pierre.
Questa è l'ultima fionda che ho rubato a mio zio, che era entrato alla CEA perché era l'amante di una vedova che aveva agganci con qualche politica, ha fatto entrare.
Si spingeva i lampioni con quello che faceva.
Con questo ho lampadine qui nella zona, ho fatto la sassaiola con quelli di Villa Cordiani e via discorrendo. Non so se ho tirato qualche mattonata pure col maestro, ma penso che no. Io mi sa che sto più grande, io devo 54 e io 62. Allora non cerchiamo di incontrare a mattonata. però con quelli dei Villacordiani che venivano.
Guardo il passato da un presente già passato. Il mio punto di vista continua a spostarsi. C'era qualcosa che è stato cancellato, ma non del tutto. Nel film Stalker di Tarkovsky, la zona è un luogo off limits, misterioso, con dei rischi e delle possibilità, dove i protagonisti cercano qualcosa di essenziale, come me, qui. Questa zona è il borghetto prenestino, Roma Est. Ci hanno abitato migliaia di famiglie, per lo più immigrate dalla Calabria, dall'Abruzzo, in cerca di una vita migliore. Ciò che so oggi di questa storia l'ho imparato grazie a un'esplorazione molto particolare, la zattera. La zattera è il nome di questo giornale. La zattera è anche un lavoro sulla memoria, un progetto di apprendimento aperto per ritrovare i fili che collegano il presente al passato. Ora vi racconto l'esperienza di ricordare insieme questo luogo, di cui abbiamo ritrovato alcune tracce, disperse lì dov'era.
Okay, thank you, Pierre. Hello to everybody. I'm Giulia from Stalker, and this is just a little short starting of the movie done by Mirice and Pierre in the occasion of the circumstance, this publication that we have done 2 years ago in the frame of the project that we call La Zattera, the Raft, which is a project of social engagement. Probably we can show the rest of the video without sound, just to try to bring you in the mood of what we try to do in Rome. I know it's not easy, far away from Rome, and also online. So the Raft, La Zattera, is this project that we have been running as Stalker since 3 years, with the idea to collect collectively all the invisible and the forgotten memory of the city of Rome in the last 150 years. And we have done this together with a lot of different people from generation, from background, from interest. And we met together in this idea of the School of Nomadic Urbanism. This is an educational path that we propose, especially after COVID. So that was a specific moment. You can see this was the first day in which we met again in public space. So we had also a kind of strange feeling of being together in public space, and at the same time also a desire to be together, to be back in a specific public space, plenty of memory of the city, hidden memory of the city. And we have done this together. Sorry?
Julia, can we
Yes.
listen to the sound just a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, Pierre is the
Maybe,
director at the moment. My intention was just to introduce this and then let the floor also to Mirice and Pierre. They participate to the school. Okay, Pierre, go.
I think Pierre may be muted. Yeah.
Ah. È la prima volta che ci incontriamo in pubblico. L'appuntamento è alla stazione Prenestina. Adesso lascio la parola a Lorenzo.
Ci siamo ritrovati qui alla stazione immancabilmente perché che si venisse a lasciare il centro storico, che si venisse dall'Abruzzo, da qua si veniva al borghetto prenestino. E alla stazione c'era un po' di quei riferimenti, c'era un minimo di spaccio, qualche sigaretta sfusa, il giornale, il caffè. E soprattutto la stazione è quella porta anche della clandestinità, perché dal 1939 le leggi, il governo fascista fa una legge che impedisce il diritto di cittadinanza a chi in città non ha lavoro e impedisce il lavoro in città a chi non ha il diritto di cittadinanza. Nel 2009 Berlusconi ripristina il principio a favore, diciamo così, dei migranti e questo principio purtroppo vale ancora oggi, quindi ci troviamo più o meno come ci trovavamo allora. Questo è anche, come dire, un cortocircuito, ce ne faremo diversi di cortocircuiti fra quello che succede oggi e quello che è. Non so, è quello che è successo. Prego.
La prima famiglia che è stata qua è stata mio nonno, 1927, mia madre c'era 3 anni, sfrattata da via Luciano Manara perché dissidente a regime, buttata qua sopra così. Primo figlio, 20 anni, morto di broncopolmonite prima che facesse casa. Poi nel 1930 lui ha fatto l'elite, primo lotto e secondo lotto. Ma però le prime famiglie dissidenti sono state buttate così. Ma tu da oggi stai qua, non sei più a via Luciano Manara, a Trastevere. Questa è la storia della famiglia innocente.
Una patata.
Da oltre 2 mesi faccio dei sopralluoghi con gli altri esploratori della Zattera per preparare questo giorno. Durante uno di questi sopralluoghi abbiamo incontrato una donna che ci ha raccontato che da bambina c'era una baracca con un cortile e nel cortile un albero di fichi che le offrivano. Oggi piantiamo un noce, un olmo e un fico.
So Fanello e so de Pietralata, 13 anni o qualche mese in più. Ma da quando la scuola mi ha cacciato, con la vita me la vedo tu per tu. Sei mio padre che non mi dice niente e mia madre corazza che da fare. Se mi vai tanta buona gente che da sempre sei la satana. Qualcheduno se viene a predicare uguaglianza e la fraternità.
Questa in piedi sono io, accanto a Stefania Placidi, che interpreta la canzone.
Well, let's come back to the Zoom community, Pierre, if you don't mind, and stop sharing. I guess I want to ask first, Julia and Lorenzo, the feeling of this, the feeling of this event, the feeling of this experience. I mean, you're creating a kind of, obviously, a social kind of energy there, and it's also quite nourishing of the community rather than critical. I mean, it is identifying structural defects in politics and policies, but also there's a sense of building and constructing something productive and perhaps implying that there's another paradigm. So I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit about the intention of these kinds of events, and also if Marice and Pierre could tell us a little bit about why they were making this film, like what attracted them to the topic, and how all of you sort of came into contact with each other. That's a big ask, but maybe we can isolate the responses. First Stalker, and then Marice and Pierre. And greetings again to all of our friends. Greetings to Ellen Wexler. Greetings to Suzanne, and Ron Daniels in Michigan. Thanks again for joining, everybody. and Karen Horowitz, whose home we're in, but she's in California. And anyway, here we are in
Here we
the
are.
Tuning Fork community. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Emily. Thank you all. And yeah, what I would like this to be said by Pierre Mirisce, because I mean, maybe what I can say, it's like what with this kind of situation we organize, we call them circumstances. So it's an attempt to get out. We choose a site so fundamental, and we try to work on it, not through, as Julia said, through this schooling process. The school, it's open. And then gathers researchers in different disciplines, but also inhabitants, migrants, people that are very diverse people. So we try to harvest very diverse knowledges and competences on stories of places. And so we had the chance to have Pierre and Mirisce also gather into the making of a film, which is actually their professional. So this is also this research. It goes on try to put together elements from different time frames. So we recall memories, and we try to do this always about memories that are forgotten or have been cancelled, or they're not part of a main narration. So, and then we entangle them into moment that social, but also sometimes performative. I mean, if we go on with the movie, we would see also a certain point we engage the priest of the local church, because next to the place we were, a plane crashed in 1952, a plane from Philippines, and we didn't know about it. Nobody knows about it. There's no sign for it. So then he comes out, and we brought a little tree, and he blessed the tree. And so all this, it's a mix of something you would like to happen. You think you help happening by catalyzing process with some elements, or with the school itself. That's kind of a chorus of this, but also you engage people direct. So we try to break in also the logic of who's the artist, who's participating. It's we participating. A social question, and then sometimes we did put ads to people before. They say, if you know something about the story of this shanty town that lasted here until 1980, come up, show up, we're gonna gather here. And then, like Renato, we knew he was gonna be there, but then the other people came, and other story came out. So it's kind of not prevented all the way, but it's structured somehow. And we put together a newspaper, which is also a way to document and archive this situation. So the school, the newspaper, the circumstance. The circumstance is also a way to put light on the margin, on the conflict line, on the void, on the empty space, people's gathering, that peoples that today don't easily gather, because they are on different fronts, because someone they have a house and someone doesn't have a house, someone they have documents and someone does not have documents, someone has a job and someone does not have a job, and so this is a way to, at least temporary, to create a potential, a possible dimension of coexistence that's related by exploring our own memories, and give it sense to sight. And share the possibility of re-inhabiting them.
Yeah. Lorenzo, it seems as though there has, these are cultural elements that you bring into the circumstances, and there's a process of somehow deconstructing, analyzing, taking apart the structure of the circumstance, and then building a new form with it. How do you identify this process of deconstruction and what Emily and I come to call cultural activism? How do you approach a potential circumstance, and how do you allow it to fester, to grow after the circumstance?
Yep, because places are non-sites, memories are lost, people is fragmented, society is divided and fragmented, we don't know each other. So there are also ways to sometimes ritualize and share the relationship with a site. The moment we all know something about it, we all know very different stories about it, we have the chance to entangle into a poetic narration, we kind of create a myth and a rite. a ride together that reconnects the people to the place, to places. So I think, but maybe Pierre and Mirice wanna say something about this.
Yeah,
Please.
first.
Yeah, thank you.
No, Medici, you go ahead.
So for those of us who are coming a little bit late, Marice and Pierre have produced the film of this event that I believe took place last year. So thank you, Marice. Continue if you
Yes,
thank you.
yes, exactly 2 years ago. But however, I took part in the experience, and Pierre took part in the experience and also recorded pictures he filmed. And then the narration, the film was connected with my experience of taking part in the process, but it was a shared experience. It was both personal, but also my personal experience was possible because we were together and in that places, and we were sharing knowledge and what we knew, and we met people together. And yes, I've known about Stalker since I think 2000, year 2000. And then, but the first time I walked with them, it was by night in Rome in 2017. And then, okay, and different experiences of walking. And
Marice, can I please ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt, what is the atmosphere like? What is the feeling at these events that you have participated in? What is the tactile feeling when you're in a Stalker generated project?
We have to know, we all have to know that the event is prepared somehow. Is unexpected what happened in that day, but there are other meetings. It's not only it wasn't for me and for Pierre and for Giulia and for Lorenzo. It was not the day of the event. The pictures show about what happened the day of the event, but is prepared, is slow, okay? In slow, yes, somehow. And so the atmosphere, well, it depends. I was excited also that day. I was concerned that everything went fine. I felt also responsible for the people that came only that day, because actually you can choose. You can take part only that day, or you can take part to the nomadic school of urbanism. And
wait a minute. Nomadic school of urbanism.
What does it mean? Well, Lorenzo and Giulia should explain.
Please.
I can tell you that for me, what it means eating together, having lunch. It's not lunch, having dinner on tables on the street in front of the space that is called no working, and discuss what's going to, or what could happen during the working day. It means also one night that we were walking in a neighborhood which is called Eur, E-U-R, and we were carrying along a piece of thread, 80 meters long piece of thread. Can you follow me? It's like
yes, 8 meters. It's about 25 feet.
80 meters.
80.
80.
80 million. So it's a long line.
Meters.
There were many.
Yeah, it's about the length of a football field.
Yeah.
Okay, and I didn't know why, but at one point it became clear because we or they or someone wrapped the thread around the trees in a park, and it became hammock. How do you say, Pierre? It's a
Hammock.
bed where you could sleep by night, and 2 by 2 we went inside. At that point I understood what nomadic urbanism meant. It meant not living like gypsies, but being able to live the city in a different way, and even being able to sleep and be safe at night in August in Rome in a park. That was I loved it. Okay, it's not always like that. It's not always playful. It can be also painful, because you come across I would say misery, hidden misery. Poor people, but is worse than being poor. Is neglected. You suddenly understand that Rome can be very hostile, is not a welcoming city, and that the city, institution, but also people, no, are not prepared to take care, to face problems, to face connected to to living. But yes.
May I say something, please? And Marice, thank you so much for such a generous and juicy, expression about your experience. I think it's really important for us to understand the feeling of what's happening at these events. I think that I'll preface what I'm going to say by saying that the way that you all are working with visual elements and physical elements has a kind of cultural symbolism, or something that reflects back to symbols or aesthetics. And this is a kind of very penetrating strategy to engage people, to engage imagination, innocence, to protect the vulnerability, perhaps, that we may feel through a cultural artifice or a structure, a concept. And I don't want to use the word subversive in the sense that the art is subversive, because the circumstances that the art is relating to are subversive circumstances. Maybe somebody can mention something about Giorgio Agamben. What's his name? Agamben. We have his book over here. Something about the relationship of the state, and without directly confronting the state. And your recent event, Stalker's event last weekend, related to Pasolini and the project there, we could perhaps visit this a little bit from the philosophic perspective and the methodology of transforming consciousness using cultural elements, and empowering the present community.
Mm-hmm.
Jean, your microphone is on, sorry.
Okay. Yes. Okay, we can try to do that. Maybe, I'm sorry, I don't know. We didn't hear very well the audio of the video before. This was 2 years ago. We keep doing these circumstances, and the last, as you said, was just a few days ago, and the issue was very harsh because the whole of ignorance, the vertigo of unsaid, unknown, and cancelled was the story of Italian colonialism in Africa. And the Italian colonialism in Africa, I mean, for some reason, we as Italians didn't have to go through what the German did, the Nuremberg process and all that, because we were a pretty lefty countries, and then the Allies decided that, you know, you don't want to get rid of all these right-wing fascist, post-fascist people because something, you don't know who you leave the country in the end of who you leave the country. So a lot of criminals of the colonial times, and especially in the fascist time, never had to pay for their crimes, but also plus the colonies, we didn't lose them through a process of decolonization, but we simply lost the war and lose the colony. So we never had this kind of reaction active from the colonized to claim their independence. So this is why Italians think that we have this kind of way of saying Italians good people. Italians always good people. But then in the 19th of February of 1937, there was an attempt of patriots from Ethiopia that hit it without killing the chief of the Italian army in Eastern Africa and in Addis Ababa, and the Italian freaked out completely. Not only the fascists, not only the soldiers, but the entire Italian population of the city of Addis Ababa went down in the street, and for 3 days, with no meaning, with no care of anything, just killed people. We don't know how many people. I mean, this has always been, but we talk about 20,000, 30,000 people killed in 3 days. So this is something, now that we have communities coming from there also in the city, this is something we never shared. I mean, we never shared. There was some pushes politically in the latest year, now that the question of memory is bringing out, especially the colonial issue, to make this day of memory, but we really wanted to share it with them, with the Ethiopian in Rome, with the Eritrean and the Ethiopian and the colonized people in Rome. So we started to again, with this idea of the school, to share the knowledge. I mean, as Mirisha would say, sometimes knowledges are terrible knowledges of the past, but also to discover the beauty of the present. So we found out this soccer team of Ethiopia, Ethio Roma, and they mixed up, and so we made up this new ethnic group, the Ethio Romans, which is all of us, wanting to understand what the hell happened then and why we never talk about it, and how come these people came here. And also we wanted to know how come a few years ago, a building where they 800 Ethiopian Eritrean squatted because had no other place to go, since seeker for asylum, they received the asylum, but they didn't receive welcoming. So they were living this building early morning in the middle of August. They've been all evicted. So we link questions that were very different. The question of the 30 and the social question of evicting migrants, refugees nowadays. But also we had the pleasure to share rights and ways of living. And in the other hand, we brought in the issue of Pasolini. Because Pasolini, I mean, because also, not only because we started from the place where there was an exhibition of Pasolini. This is the soccer team. And so we proposed the soccer team to take the same position that the African soldiers of the fascist army were taking for the opening in the same building where the Pasolini exhibition was, of the colonial art exhibition in 1931, inaugurated by Mussolini himself. So we started to make this kind of collapse and overlap of different situations, try to investigate at different level the non-said and the incomprehension between us. Yeah, this is the square where the building was evicted, and we had a lady that was telling us exactly what happened. Here she is, Gemma. She was so beautiful and so we move in 3 different situations. We call this circumstance a scene for a movie never turned about the past, the present, and the future of Africans in Rome. And then it led to actually the monument, which and this was prepared because this we really worked for it. This is a real street sign in marble, like the way are done in Rome, and under the monument that recalls 500 people died, Italian soldiers in the first attempt of conquering Ethiopia. They died in a battle because of bad chief. They were sent through in a very dangerous place. They all died. So Piazza dei Cinquecento, the square of the 500, it's actually the square of the station of Rome. But to make another entangle, 500,000 people crosses this square daily. It's the most inhabited place of Italy, actually, because of the train station, the 2 subway lines, and all that. And so we made this street sign, shifting the idea of the 500 to the 500,000. But 500,000 are also the people in Africa who died because of Italian colonialism. So,
well,
and also, yeah. So
I think one of the things that impressed Emily and I were something you told us about the founding of Rome, that welcomed the outsiders, welcomed the others.
Yeah, we should go back to that.
Yes, I think it's a wonderful, context and foundation. If you could just tell us a little bit about that, and perhaps we go into the Lago Bulicante, maybe eventually here.
Okay, I'll start, and then I give it to Giulia De Lago. I just start with the very beginning of Stalker.
Yeah,
actually.
just I want to add something. I mean, we did the Circustan last week, really sharing this memory together with the Ethiopian community. It was the second year. It was really touching and was really important as a way to share the life of today, the public space together with them. And going back to the idea of the circumstance, there is a very strong political responsibility when we propose this action together with different people. And in a way, also the importance of doing this action, and also the importance of the movie done by Mirice and Pierre, is because we, in the same moment in which we remind this memory, we act in the public space and we become archive of ourselves. We are living to the future. You understand, no? We are acting fast, and that's important. Also, this
mechanically speaking, do you need to have a permission from the government to do these interventions, or you just, what is the circumstance?
We don't ask permission. I mean, the city is our city, the public space is our public space. We are not dangerous. I know we are in Rome, we are not in the States, but we really push not asking permission. We are really delicate in our way to cross the city. Even sometimes we like and we want to cross the border of possibility or accessibility, but just temporary. Now we go back. I don't know, Pierre, do we want to add something about the video?
Circumstance. Yeah, Pierre, we didn't get.
Sorry, we passed to other, if you like. Yeah. I don't know if Pierre is working. I don't know.
No, there he is.
Or we go back to Stalker origin.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
Whenever
please
you
tell
want
us,
to stop,
Pierre. We'd like to catch your position on the work you did and with us. But so going back to what John was saying is this idea of, on one hand, being on site, embed reality, transpass boundaries, walk even sometimes for days, inhabitable places, and try to gather there very diverse people in the making of a new community. And then in the making of this, I started to explore the mythology of the city, and this leads me back to the very origin of the city. I think so. I structured a kind of narration that subvert the mythology of Rome as the Western starting of a civilization, and looking at it as being in the core of, in the middle of the Mediterranean, in a core of a set of different frontiers and boundaries, north and south, east and west, and being a civilization that was basically founded on the possibility of including the other in a wide sense, the other as time, as other times. No, we never know when Rome was founded. We always know there was something before. So by canceling the origin, they wanted to achieve the idea of eternity, not by powerful defend the ruling of the world, but just by canceling the origin, by welcoming nature, reappropriating ruins after a civilization and its decay, and then by hosting foreigners, refugees. The first were the Trojans refugees after the Troyes War that landed in Rome, and who got mixed up with the locals, which were leftovers from a previous civilization, into the making of a city, which was the first city that didn't have ethnic basis, but actually was whose symbol was the wolf, the female wolf, which actually in Latin also it's a way to refer to prostitution. So where prostitutes, where foreigners, where stealers, where people neglected, refugees were gathering and were put together by Romolo to found the city. And this very special place in the core of the city, that was the Capitolium, was the only hill where nature was so wild that was not inhabited, and there was a secret wood. The secret wood was the wood of the asylum. And asylum comes from settle, because this is the word in Latin that meaning settle. And what is in the settle of the two hills of the Capitol Hill? And asylum turned the international word for hosting refugees and foreigners. But we didn't know in the moment this map, it's the first map of our work in 1995, with the name of Stalker, under the following this idea of Tarkovsky movie that you may know. It's a beautiful movie. Stalker crosses a zone, and the zone is forbidden to enter, but the Stalker has the urge to enter. The Stalker leads their people. In the case of the movie, it's an artist and a scientist, a mathematician, because they know they get access to the truth in the zone. So besides the movie, to us, our zone has always been the enormous amount of spaces that we don't get to perceive in our city, which is very vast. Rome is not huge in terms of population. It's 3 million people around, but the territory of Rome could include the biggest 9 cities of Italy. It's wider than London. It's wider than, it's just huge. And this because of also this process of enlarging and shrinking, and being the biggest agricultural city, having vast areas of archaeology, infrastructure like any other city. So all this that is not part of the common perception of the city, military areas you can add, we call it actual territory, and we contrapose this to, and we painted it blue, and like in this map, and then the islands of the contemporary city, there where we know where we are, there where we can go by bus, where we know we have street signs, and it's this yellow, this year. So Rome emerged like a new planet made out of 2 things, land and sea. But this sea, it's basically wilderness. And this wilderness in the Roman ancient time was called Latium, was the alter ego of the city. Now it's the name of the region of Rome. But what is Latium? Latium is exactly the wild nature that's needed to make Rome survive. So Rome and Latium stick together. And these images show us, it's an ancient image from 16th century. And you see Rome, it's that powerful, beautiful, with the symbols of power and peace also, on the lady on the grotto, on the cave. And underneath we have the Latium. The Latium symbol, it's Saturnus. Saturnus, it's the Latin name of Chronos, the time. And as this symbol of this tool he has in his hand, it's a tool for harvesting wheat, but it's also a tool that symbolizes death, no, the arrival of death. And so was the tool of regeneration. Latium in Latin means hide. Saturnus escape because Jupiter he kicked him out because he was scared his father was going to eat him. That was the mythology. And he lands in Rome when Rome was not there. And he get hosted by another very typical mythological and religious Roman figure that was Janus with two faces, who's capable to look in the front and at the back on the same time. So past and future, but also male and female, young and old, the god of passages. And so he arrives and he starts here the Age of Gold. And the Age of Gold, it's this previous age that was there before Rome was there. And this is only to say that this relationship we found out in this abandoned system, in this system of abandoned areas taken over by nature, that we call actual territories, to put in counterposition with contemporary. So in the end, to make it short, I would say, according with a long-term exoteric, also mythological narration, we have also the experience of the contemporary Rome that somehow show us how this makes sense, how Rome regenerates by the reappropriation of nature, of its own ruins, and then we would see also the contemporary ruins, and inhabited by excluded people that they gathered. And the question is, what tool do we need to create the rights, the condition for inhabiting this space, gather the community, linking to the site, to the genius of the site. And I think circumstances a little bit this attempt to take different times together, to take different people together, and to recreate an energy that comprehend the vastity of the Roman experience. And Rome, in this sense,
Okay.
it's okay.
What do we see? I mean, by the way, when you say circumstances, you're talking about these projects. And when you say canaling, you mean channeling, you know.
Huh?
Canale?
Yes?
But yes, when you use the word canaling, it sounds like you're, you know, including all these different elements. You've said a couple of times the word.
And I meant well, harvesting different people and gathering maybe.
Yeah.
Gathering.
So now, I mean, it's quite remarkable that your activity has been alive for almost 2 decades. More than 2 decades?
More than 2 decades, yes.
Yeah.
28.
Yeah, and I think we have a clear impression about the Borghetto project. One thing that stands out is also that people who didn't have jobs were expelled from the community, from the country, even. And then, of course, what defines a job? And so, anyway, this idea of reanimating the community energy, reanimating that, and following the narration that nature gives rather than the human society giving. And this example here with Lago Bullicante is a lovely example of how nature is narrating the circumstance and your response to it. Please take us into there, and I hope we come back to Pierre and the film again. So thank you so much. So this is now, what are we seeing here?
This is Lago Bullicante. Emily and John visit this place when they have been in Rome. And this is really a symbol of what Lorenzo was saying before about this relation among nature and ruins in Rome. For us, this is a place where we have been working since years together with the community. This is a new lake. This lake has just 30 years because this came out suddenly in 1992 because of a speculation. There was a construction site. During the construction of the 3 parking floor underneath. They touched the water, and the water came out, and a lake came out. So
Wait, you have to slow down. Wait a minute.
So this is the area.
There was some plan to.
Yeah, they were building this shopping center where they weren't allowed to build, and touching the underneath water, the water came out.
From town.
And
you're saying that the corruption of building with no permit, there was no permit to build?
No.
And
that's a ruin.
That's a ruin. I mean, we are in the east part of the city of Rome, where there was a factory built in 1922, so exactly 1 century ago, was a factory for producing artificial silk rayon. And they decided to put this factory here a century ago because here there was an underneath creek, because they need water for producing this artificial silk. Then the factory was abandoned in 1956, so almost 70 years ago. And then after that time, the area was abandoned. Just few gypsy people used to live there, some young people from the neighborhood who used to jump in it and use the space, but was completely abandoned. So nature had the time to retake the space by itself.
So I'm sorry, I'm a little naive, but if I show up in Rome at some, ruin with a crane, I can start to build. How does that work?
Yeah, because in 1990, one of the Roman entrepreneurs bought the entire area of the abandoned factory, about 14 hectares, and he started to put down some buildings in this area, and he changed the color of the general planning regulation, and he put a shopping center where it wasn't possible to build. This is Roman urbanistic way of building.
No, well, he was allowed to make public services, but not private services.
Yeah.
So in the moment he presented the license, he changed his color to say, okay, I build services, but they're private. And then someone probably paid in the public administration, accepted this document. So he started to build. But then nature stopped it.
Yeah, because actually it's not just a matter of doing something wrong or to change the colors, but just to go back to the memory of the place, to the genealogy of the place. You could know that here there was an underneath creek. That's why they put the factory there. So the nature, no? Okay.
So sorry, it's a little too crazy and wonderful. But I share one story with you.
Please.
I was told that there was a study for the Last Judgment of Da Vinci, the painting, and I went to see it. Bill Gates was possibly going to buy this study of the Last Judgment, and I was told that in order to make it possible to buy this, that you had to have the permission or the affirmation from the Vatican. And to get the affirmation from the Vatican, you had to give the Vatican $1 million. Then you could prove that this was a Da Vinci and you could sell it. I just want to share that context. So what happened and where are we now with the
so the interesting things that next to this place where nature retake its own space, there grow up a very strong community of people, inhabitants of the neighborhood that understand the importance of the place, and they start to fight for to defend the place against speculation as a public space. So starting from 1992, they start to understand the importance of the place, and especially in 2013 was the moment in which we start to start this fight for defending the lake. And then for the first time, we enter in the lake, and from that moment start a fight against institution on one side, against the private on the other side, and to empower the community around the importance of the place as a public space, as a park for the city. We are in a very dense and polluted area of the city, and the importance to let people understand the importance of wilderness together with the ruins. You see the ruins of the factory, where the nature really is a new urban wilderness, which is not wilderness itself, but is together with the ruins. So here is plenty of birds and animals that find house in this space, and also trees, very high trees that since 1956, they were allowed to grow up here. So a lot of also environmental young people movement, they came here and find this space as an example for the new movement, environmental movement battle. And sorry.
So almost 30 years now, this has
exactly
been
30 years, yeah. But the exactly fight started in 2013.
Right.
So in 2013, the fight of the inhabitants pushed the administration to expropriate 3 hectares of the area around the lake. So at the moment, 3 hectares are public, but management by the community. While we have still 7 hectares, they are still private. And what happened 2 years ago was that, you want to go on?
No, I don't know, maybe Pierre that took this drone images could go on. I mean, this is when you see this line in the middle, it's exactly the line in between the public and the private.
So how many hectares or acres are we looking at in Rome here by the lake?
Okay, we have 3.5 hectares. That's the lake area expropriated. On top of the hill, we have some other part, which is already
hold on. Okay, 3.5 acres is about, 3.5 hectares are about 10 acres of land. Okay, just so people understand in hectares what it is. 10 acres of land, and
10 acres of land that was recognized public, but where the water were not yet recognized as water of a lake, because if that would have happened, he could have not built. And here we see that they're trying to work, and they're clearing the green on the left with these tracks.
There is another. No, oh, sorry.
Wow.
They're clearing the screen.
That's private industry.
Yeah. Okay. So because the guy understood that the risk is that this natural system could have been recognized by the city, because we made even a conference with Pierre. We made a beautiful video from above with a drone explaining that a new ecosystem with an incredible biodiversity, challenging climate change with a big unedited ecology. It's so resistant and resilient, more than the original ecosystem here was taking place. A lot of birds were making this space. I mean, this would be and to make understand that this ruin not even should be turned down, because it's dangerous. It could affect. We should not plan this place, but we should listen to it. We should learn out of this nature. We should relocate ourselves as human in a context that it's creatively generated by nature. And we have to put ourselves in the listening to participate in this process. So we start a lot of educational issue, but then also we start rights, and we start also.
Okay, wait just a second. So there are several institutions working with you, schools, organizations, community groups. There's been a lot of press. Our friend just recently saw an article that his future daughter-in-law wrote about it. So this is quite a famous situation. What kind of forces do you employ or deploy to shift the legal situation and the intervention of the private, speculators?
Yeah, this is one action, and we try to give form to the action so that it becomes also aesthetic actions in one way. And this is, we were all dressing. Each of us had a towel with different letter, and so we wrote immediate expropriation. We entered the area because it really cleared away the nature and devastated the nest.
Come mai? Che dice in italiano? In inglese? Che c'è qui? Ci avete? Sì, tutto. Esproprio? Sì, subito. Esproprio, what does that mean?
Immediate expropriation. We should, the state should claim and get the property of this land, because it's of prior interest, collective interest, that we preserve this spontaneous ecosystem that prompt out after a speculation and transform a polluting factory into one of the most biodiverse spot of the city. So this, and then on the other side of the same poncho, we had this forest, the working forest, because then we took the branches of the
So more specifically, the letters on the backside,
the green
other
one
side of your ponchos.
Yes.
These words say what?
This was recalling Shakespeare, talks about the walking forest, la foresta in cammino, the moving forest.
But the foresta in camino literally means the walking, or the forest which is walking.
Yeah.
The forest which is growing, which is moving.
Yeah, we took it from Macbeth, because in Macbeth, Macbeth had the oracle that his kingdom would have been safe until the moment he would have seen the forest moving, and then attacked him, covered with branches of tree, and then the guards of his castle says the forest is moving, and so he was so scared that that was the beginning of the end. So we went with all the branches of the trees all the way to the Capitolium, the same hill where the asylum was, which actually is the place where the city of Rome government is.
You walked across the city.
We walked across the city with this
with these branches.
Yes, yeah, you have some images of that.
So going back to this question about community, so the place is managed by the forum, which is an assembly, a democratic assembly that meet every month, and that decide and manage the space. But to support the fight from the very beginning, the community decide to ask to expert, to ask to university, to ask to institution, especially international institution, to ask to artists to be there and to say something, to support the fight, to try to let understand to the institution the importance of the place, especially at an international level. So journalists are all the time invited to write about that.
Maybe
So
Pierre, who was actually
was also an
international journalist. Maybe you want to say something about it.
So the importance of the international voice to support the local fight.
Is Pierre with us? Because I'm sure there he is. So Pierre, can you please respond to Lorenzo and Julia's comments? And by the way, I am a very limited knowledge about all of this, and you have so much more. Pierre, what questions would you have for Julia and Lorenzo? And maybe we can open up the forum for the other participants in this circumstance. Maybe we can do something to help you guys promote the project. Pierre, are you muted? I don't hear him. let's try, Pierre. Try another.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Thank you. So nice.
Um,
Again, you're in Washington, D.C. at NPR.
Washington, D.C., NPR headquarters.
And what do you do? What do you do there?
I'm a visual editor on the global health and development section. So I'm really a freelance filmmaker and video journalist, but I'm here temporarily. In a week, I start freelancing again. But I've been here for about a year doing odd jobs. It's a great place to work.
What's your connection with Julia and Lorenzo in
My
Rome?
connection with Julia and Lorenzo is a man named Morteza Husseini, who is a refugee from Afghanistan, who ended up befriending Julia and Lorenzo and living in their office. And I got to know him through another friend, and he brought me to them. And he said, there's something interesting happening. I think you'd like it. And I said, okay. And he said, just come to the office. It's called No Working. So already my American sensibilities, my spines came out, and I said, what do you, no working? I love working. What are you doing? No working. I want to work. So already I was baffled by Julia and Lorenzo, continue to be baffled, but in a very good way. The thing that I find most interesting is how they inhabit the places they are, doing actions on. Like it's a way that I haven't seen. I mean, I'm not an activist, but I just haven't seen this. We're used to seeing people either squatting or protesting, right? They approach it in a very different way. They'll screen something on an abandoned wall in a neighborhood where they want to explore, and the people will come out and talk to them versus them knocking on doors and saying, we're doing this thing. They're involved with local churches and local folks in the neighborhood. They seek out these people and tell them what they're doing, and it's always like, we're just trying to understand what happened here. Can you help us? It's fascinating the way they inhabit these places, and they go to these places many for months, visiting and talking to people, and then the action happens. So that's what I wanted to get across, about Stalker, and it's about being there and walking and being in the place, being in the place, sometimes going against the public-private space, but that has some reverberations, right? It's like, oh, I see, we're being shunned from this area. Why is that? What are they protecting? This type of thing. So,
well, Pierre, here's a kind of, I hope not too abstract a question, but how has your perception of yourself as an individual citizen in society sort of shifted through your contact with this kind of activism or cultural activism and their particular method?
I'm still trying to understand that. As a journalist, you're trained to be impartial and unbiased and this and that. And I hesitated to even, attend, not in a journalistic capacity, these events. But it was too good not to attend. So I decided I'm going to attend as a participant, not as a journalist. But then I became very interested in what they were doing. And I haven't tried to tell their story necessarily. This documentary that we did, and all the work I've done with them has just been by pleasure. Okay,
so I have to interrupt you, because I want to understand from your perception and your subjective experience, what does too good mean? What does it mean, too good not to do something about it? What's the too goodness?
The too good is like the thing is too interesting. The information you're receiving, the knowledge you're acquiring, the experiences you're having, like Medici was saying, it's so enriching, but at the same time, that you're kind of fighting the good fight. You're there. There's a purpose, and it's usually you feel like it's a very good purpose, like it's on the right side of history type of purpose. So.
What are the implications, Pierre? What are the implications of this manner of working? It's beyond social criticism, because it offers expression and manifestation of a very particular kind of communal power. What are the implications for you?
Yeah, like I said, I'm still trying to understand those. I can't explain them. It's a feeling that I've received from them, and it's kind of like you can devote your life to this kind of work. I wish I could. I'm in the States because COVID ruined me financially when I was in Rome, so I'm here to reconnect and fill up the bank account. But I would much rather be there documenting these things.
Julia and Lorenzo, do you want to call upon Pierre for any other comments right now? Otherwise, I would like to open up to our, the forum here in the tuning fork.
Yeah,
Other bright minds, because it's overwhelming. It's just quite amazing. So. Perhaps someone else would like to ask a question or comment, help to shape this circumstance a little bit. What?
I have a little confused on the title Stalker. Is it the nature that's taken back over what was once developed? They dug a parking lot, hit a spring, a lake filled up. So nature reclaimed that land, and you all are protecting nature's right to be there. So is nature the stalker, or I'm just trying to understand here. Thank you.
Okay, but that's a Stalker. It comes from a movie of this Russian filmmaker Tarkovsky. It's a movie from 1979, and so the movie is about an area that was polluted, or for some reason was closed, and people couldn't get in. The army was protecting it. It was forbidden. But the stalker transpass and goes inside. And there, in these zones, the things change according with the feeling of the people that sits there. So he knows how to go through the zone, because the zone is very dangerous. And he takes in the zone two persons, an artist and a scientist, because they want to reach this white room in the core of the zone where they would probably understand the truth from the artistic and from the scientific point of view. But the stalker, it doesn't have this metaphysical desire, it just wants to go back and forth, or just want to cross this.
It also implies curiosity, and the fiber of animating life force through curiosity and stalking. And
also, maybe this is important. As architects, we're both trained as architects, and our big shift was the occupation of university in 1990. And as trained an architect, we found out that these kind of emerging insurgent territories where ruins, leftovers, pollution get mixed up by an incredible nature that takes over, and with an incredible intelligence, we do not comprehend, transform all this into a biodiverse system. So it gives us put us in a different position. Also put us in listening and comprehending what nature does, not planning and deciding what to do. And I think this is crucial for an architect, the idea that in Stalker, the territory can change your perception. What we need now is not to build solution, but to understand new behaves, to behave in accordance with what's coming, the becoming of things and what nature is doing. So I think for us, Stalker was mostly this, inverting the role of the architect.
Well,
fascinating concept about how nature, if nature reclaims what colonizing left behind, then nature should have trump over the colonizers, and they should never allow it to go back there. And nature should be, the one that writes the rules from that point. Great concept.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just want to comment. Thank you, Ron Daniels. Ron is a First Nations person in America, and interesting perspective Ron, your perspective about nature in this context. So
Yes.
thank you super much. Thanks.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I'm just looking for hands, but please, if anyone would like to speak up, just go right ahead. I think also Gene Pendon's work is quite interesting in this matrix of people. You see behind Gene Pendon his blackboard, which is his sort of analytic two-dimensional research room for deconstructing archetypes and philosophies, economic models, political and cultural models, which Gene works with. And I'm noticing, the potential for some interactivity there with Stalker and Gene's work with community in Canada. Is not to diminish anyone else's, sort of component parts and synergy here. I think Vera is working recently also with South African themes and issues. Just glancing around, I think Margaret introduced a friend of hers here who also works in community. So Alan Wexler is saying, you've taken what we coined in the late 60s as non-architecture, paper architecture, and de architecture from the conceptual into the real world. That's Alan's comment to Julia and Lorenzo. What?
He was also
And Alan is an architect and artist who has a beautiful book called Absurd Thinking. And I encourage everyone to look for Alan Wexler's work. Alan, if you don't mind typing your website in or some preferred reference for you. This is very exciting. I think Alan and his wife, Ellen, would probably love to come to Rome and meet you guys. They have often been to the American Academy as resident artists.
Yes, we will be happy.
We'll be happy to meet you in Rome. Thank you very much for your comment. Very wise. And yes, it refers also to this urge to bring back to heart also a lot of speculation, in intellectual speculation of artists that has been popping back into dreaming from then in the 60s to the phantasmagorous, to the unbelievable architecture of Remkulas or contemporary architecture. We're very far away from that now. We see this.
Alan is going to speak, and I just want to acknowledge Alan.
Oh, no, just that you're merging what Joseph Beuys calls social sculpture with architecture, and I think that's a beautiful practice, and especially in light of today's problems we have in the world, really commendable. I tend to work in the privacy of my studio, and a little nervous about going into the real world, but I really respect what you do. So thank you.
Although, Alan, let me interject that your work has been shown publicly in galleries and cultural venues, and as well as outdoor installations along the river here in Manhattan, among other projects of yours. And Alan is also alumni here in the Tuning Fork, as is Margaret and Gene Pendon, and we hope eventually get Vera on board here too. So what a beautiful community here today. Thanks, Alan. Thanks a million. So good to see you. There's Alan's link in the chat box. Thank you. Margaret, you're at home in a so-called the Heimat in.
Yeah. I'm in Osttirol. I'm near the highest, not so far from the highest mountain of Austria, and yeah, I'm really impressed. I would love to hear learn more about your work. I tried to make some notes here because it's really yeah, it's quite a lot to digest actually. And what I found very interesting is what Pierre was saying. He said, it is a feeling that I received. it's just, I just want to be there. And, you know, in reference to the office that is called No Working, I mean, wouldn't that be such an ideal, you know, situation if we could all, yeah, just somehow, you know, return to this, being able to be in places where we feel that it matters what we do, that we don't have to, you know, compete with others, or we don't have to prove anything, but just be with others that are like-minded people. So, you know, as you were presenting your work, I mean, I understand that you're working together with institutions, with maybe also with the city. I'm not sure. Do you?
It depends sometimes.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, yeah, how, I mean, you've been doing this work for such a long time now, and you managed to continue doing it. Like, what does it take? Like, how many people are involved, and what does it take to keep on going and to enable others, you know, to become part of it?
So about people, it depends. For could be few people, like 5 and 20 or more. It depends of the moment, about the project, about the mood. What we try to do with this School of Nomadic Urbanism is really to have a moment of enjoying, have a moment, for us it's a kind of public research, but also to create a community, very diverse community, to be also active, as Merice was saying, that also to discover not just a very nice or wonderful part of the city, of the story of the city, of the people, but also very tough situation. So to be ready to face this situation. And about, for us is also, we decide that this is our life. So there is no difference on life and work. So that's why we call this space No Working, because actually co-working is each of us in front of his or our own laptop, while for us the No Working is a place where to stay, is also a convivial space where to have dinner in the street, also as a presence in the public space of the city. So
Yeah.
it's also a way to meet people. Sorry.
Maybe just, I mean, it's also because of Julia, because she is capable to maintain institution tied to a project that has no definition whatsoever, that engages people that illegally are on soil, that goes in places where you shouldn't go. And I mean, this is, she can play this magic and cards sometimes on the table that thinks in the end matches. Now try to keep informality of the practice and receiving from institution. This is, I think, it's her magic work.
Also, try not to institutionalize ourselves, just to leave the border open so everybody can really join, but to feel themselves part of it, but also run away. I mean, we don't want to fix a border. We say that Stalker is not a group, it's more an attitude. So if you are going to come in Rome from South Tyrol, you will be part of Stalker for a while, to be temporary. And so
I will come and visit.
I know it's not easy to express what we do, but sometimes so that's why we are not very good in online. We don't have.
Julia, you know, when Margaret and Emily and I show up, we walk very slowly.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Thank you. I just want to reference one of your activities. Am I wrong that you have participated in occupying quite a number of infrastructures in Rome? How many? Is it 150? I'm sorry if I got it wrong.
But yes, in Rome, there's a lot of occupied structures. I mean, it's one of the few places in the West where, from the 70s, the all Occupy movement didn't die out and survived, and then found new energy through the presence of migrants. So this also another elements we're very interested. We brought in some images about that, because we are working in a squat next to our house where there's 26 language spoken. There's 450 people living, but at the same time, since it's a public building, squatted in 2013, has a lot of spaces, and these spaces have started to be spaces for social and cultural activities. So this brought in a link in between the squat and the community. So for us was the most interesting. We've been, like, in the years also in the past promoting this kind of action, and then we saw it taking place and we started to participate here, and the chance was given by an exhibition, an artist. I don't even want to tell the old stories. Stories are beautiful, but always complicated. But in the end, we have in the basement of this building, we have this space that we call MADO, Museum of the Act of Hospitality. So there were to share and expose the relationships that an incredible coexistence of people from 27 different nations in an informal settlement, in an informal dimension, something that the public housing never achieved. I mean, you put all this community together and it's a mess. That there now it works because they're self-organized and they work for the community. We have spaces of our neighborhood. Our kids of the school go there. This is the images of how we started the museum. We had a French artist who wanted to make the Act of Hospitality Patrimonium of UNESCO. And he started to, I was curating the exhibition at the French Academy where he was host. So we proposed him to work with Spin Time, and then he made a workshop harvesting pictures from all over Europe for the file of presenting the Act of Hospitality Patrimony of the Humanity. And then we took all these pictures. It was still COVID time. I love this symbolic thing, as you said. So the street that links Villa Medici to the squat, it's a straight street, and it's called Happy Street because Felice, happy, was the name of the Pope who built it. So by chance, so this was the happy, and so we made it there. And these images started to be the first collection of the museum. Then we made this other project thanks to an NGO from Africa, which was bringing in African artists. And I was one of the art director of this program. So I asked them if they wanted to work with our squad. And our core question is citizenship. If you want, we can, we work a lot on the issue of citizenship. I mean, Rome, in 212 after Christ, the Emperor Caracalla was the only one in history who gave citizenship to the whole population of the known world, which actually was the Roman Empire. So this is something we don't usually remember. So we were claiming the citizenship for these kids that they go in our schools. They're the friends of our kid, but they don't have citizenship because in Italy you have to wait until you have 18 and you have to ask for citizenship, even if you was born in Italy. So we made a whole question. And then with the artists from Africa for the workshop, we made these negative images that Julia was showing before. And then we brought them in the park and then in the museum that the show was taking place. And then we asked people to invert their telephone. So they would not see the museum, they would not see anything. Everything would have turned negative, and you would only see these people. Now these invisible people becomes visible, and the community play this game. They didn't usually like to be part of these things, but they also came in this demonstration, the mothers, but then in the street the kids were not visible, were just not recognizable. No, we were not using the face of, but in the museum you could have seen them now.
So I want to thank everyone for their very generous contribution from the Stalker team, Merice and Pierre. I think we may have time for one more comment or question, and we're up against our 1.5 hour sort of space, so to speak. Yeah. Someone, perhaps? Very grateful, Pierre, also for your perspective, and we wish you the best with your financial circumstances. We're all working with that. Our organization is now a 501c3, and Emily and I couldn't be more ecstatic about this status change in our country. It is a mechanism for people to donate and source money to cultural projects, receiving a tax deduction from their donations. As well, we are able now to sponsor fiscally and receive money for other artists' projects, and they can benefit from these tax exemptions as well. So we're very excited about that, and forgive me for not being super articulate about it. My energy is still overwhelmed by the fact that the Internal Revenue System, or what is it called, IRS, of the United States of America has given us this opportunity. You know, so as an institute, we sort of taken on this mantle of the institutional structure and a conceptual kind of idea that the art is somehow merging with the superstructures, the dominance of the corporate narrative, and we're busy working on this. Margaret, Emily, and I are board members, and anyway, that's how it is right now. So I'd love to open up the floor for someone else here. Otherwise, we'll say abbracci, ci vediamo fra poco. But let's see if anybody else has something to say or ask. Vera in Paris, we love you. So happy.
Thanks. Nice to be here. I'm out of my depth. I've just never heard anything like it. I just, I mean, apart from the movie Stalker, I didn't imagine there was any place where this could happen for real. So I'm amazed, and I think, it probably sets an example for other places that have the same potential. I don't think I'm anywhere near being able to lead anything like this, but it's one thing to be aware of it and then to see where art can take place also, where, artists can use a place to do something unexpected.
So in other words, Vera, are you saying that when in Rome, you do as the Romans do, but we're kind of, everybody is in Rome now?
I think you can import Rome. I'm thinking behind the mine dumps in Johannesburg and, so on, I'm thinking, what is being ignored? What could be done? Definitely.
Great and empowering teaching from Julia and Lorenzo and community.
We wait for you in Rome.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not
as you know, we have a residency opportunity for people to come to the mountains in New York State and stay with us and develop work and contemplate and really, regenerate newness and curiosity and even some stalking skills.
Well, it seems so huge. It would take a while to develop that. Amazing, you two, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
I love my partner, my love of my life, and our producer, Emily Harris, to sign off and maybe say something. Thanks, Emily. You got to, I'll unmute myself. I'll mute myself. Stay.
Thank
You got to go close to the camera. There she is.
Thank you so much. It really is so inspiring, like Vera said. So hopefully we'll
we want to be more like them, right? We want to be more like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, John. Thank you for this window overseas, and let's see now build this gap together, and meet or here or there.
Well,
soon.
just a little bit about Linz quickly. What's happening in your scholastic work, both of you? What are you doing? Where are you teaching young people who are actually in education?
Yeah, this is new. That I mean, this institutional turn just arrived just this year. I had this chance of co-directing a department of space and design strategies in the University of Linz, Austria, and we just started. And I proposed for the beginning to do something. I mean, can artists do something against the war? So I proposed this program, WAV, World Artist Agency Against the War, and to get to know the students, we proposed them to stay with us in the university, sleeping, for making a camp against the war as the beginning of the year, and set together the program for the year that will end with an exhibition in the basement of incredible basements of the school, which is a former Nazi building right in front of Dachau.
Well, that's an amazing last contribution to the evening.
We'll see what happens. We don't know yet.
And Julia, are you teaching as well, or are you? What is your day-to-day life like these days? And I know both of you are actually navigated by your young child. Your child is actually behind the scenes, like
Tomorrow we have the exam of the students of Fine Art Academy in Rome. And so we push them to understand really the relation in between nature and the city today. And they will present in their position on a similar place like the lake, which is different, another place abandoned by human, where nature is retaking the space, recreating the old natural landscape at the Roman time. So we will see tomorrow morning about the students.
And their exam will be advertising the school.
Mirice, if you are not working, if you want to show up tomorrow morning, you are more than welcome. Sorry that I didn't tell you before.
Yeah, but you have to go to sleep first, Mirice.
Yes, we have almost midnight for us.
It's almost midnight here, yes.
Midnight for how many people? Hold your hands up.
Mirice as well. So sorry if we were a bit tired.
Tick tock, tick tock.
And then we are daily engaged in the community issue here in the neighborhood. Tomorrow assembly, Thursday assembly.
Please be imaginative about how our institute can be of service to the projects with STALKER. Thank you. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Sleep well.
Night.
Sleep
Thanks.
and bon appetit.
Good night. Thanks for keeping this going. Okay.
Ciao.
Bye and bravo.
Bye.